I hear a lot of people right now speculating about the potential for post-election chaos. And that's actually pretty likely. I mean, regardless of whatever side wins, there's going to be a lot of very unhappy people about how it turns out, and it's likely that some are going to behave badly as a result. And people have even speculated in it going as far as like civil war. I don't know. I don't. I'm not smart enough to know what's going to happen in the future, but a lot of people are asking how can we prepare for something like that, and that is where my interest lies. Um, so many people offer up collectivist solutions, things like voting, supporting political parties, supporting large organizations that have power. Uh, I think a lot of times, though, a lot of our problems were caused by collectivist solutions. So I think a much better way to look at it is personal solutions. What can we do in our own lives that's going to help us out? So, of course, everybody's making videos titled things like the 30 items you need to buy before the election and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, there's things that are just a good idea to stock up on. If you don't have food and toilet paper and ammo, yeah, obviously that's something you should be addressing. But there's two things nobody's really bringing up, and for me, that's how are you going to heat yourself as we're going into winter here, and fire protection. Because I think most people have lived their entire lives with grid heat. So they just take it for granted that it's always there. Their house is always heated. Their car is always heated. They go to work, that's always heated. Um, but whenever you do have civil unrest in areas, there's always potential for services and utilities to have interruptions. So if you heat your house with natural gas, the natural gas can get shut off. If you have electric heat, the power grid can go down temporarily or longer. If you heat with propane, there could be unavailability of propane. So having some way to heat yourself in a primitive fashion is, I think, so important. It's ideal if you can have a wood burning stove to heat with. There's always wood. I mean, yeah, out in the forest here, there's wood, but also even in your house, like if you had to, you can burn furniture and things like that to stay warm. So you got to be thinking about that. And it's funny to me, I can always tell the channels who are truly like live off grid and live in the wilderness because their videos recently haven't been about their grocery store hauls and the way they're doing it. They're showing videos of themselves stacking firewood because they know they've been through it and know that if a cold snap hits and they get caught with their pants down and don't have enough firewood laying around, it's going to be a bad situation for them. So that is a very high priority for people right now. Think about that. And also have plenty of extra clothing to stay warm in and extra blankets. I can't stress that enough. Like it's been a little test here lately because for the past week or so, most of the country's had a little bit of a cold snap. It's happened here too. So we've been down into the 30s at night. And I like testing that because for me, I actually don't start burning any wood until the nighttime low drops below freezing. Because anything above freezing, as long as I'm bundled up in warm enough clothing and under 4 layers of blankets, like I sleep great. It doesn't feel that bad at all. It feels like camping weather to me. So I'd rather just save my firewood up for when it actually gets colder than that. So down to those temperatures, yeah, if you got enough blankets and clothing, you can stay fine. But once it starts getting below that, man, it's like you can die in the cold. And we all live in different climates. If you live further up north where it gets colder, like I remember in northern Illinois those nights where it'd be 20 below and 30 mile an hour winds and just it's just horrific. Just a few minutes outside and you need to get back into the heat. So if there was no heat, what are you going to do, man? I've heard it said that freezing to death is one of the very worst ways of dying. And I have no intention of ever finding out if that's true or not. So you got to find a way to stay warm in whatever your climate is and your situation. Even if utilities were disrupted, how are you going to keep yourself warm? And what goes along with that is fire protection. Because you think about it, if there was an extended amount of time with utilities down, people are still going to try to find a way to heat themselves. And how safe do you think it's going to be when people are starting fires in their living room? It's not going to be good. Most people don't understand how to properly have a fire safely that's going to keep them warm. So I think the likelihood of fires happening would just skyrocket. And if we're talking in that situation where utilities are down, it's likely that emergency services like the fire department uh, either is not working or is way behind and having a hard time keeping up and may be late responding to you. So even if you are completely safe in your home with how you're heating, do you trust your neighbors? Like, think of how stupid your neighbor is. Do you trust them to do things in a safe manner? I know I don't, even out here where people are generally more self-sufficient. I mean, I'll hear one of my neighbors out here on a Friday night. They're out there getting drunk and yelling, screaming, have their music turned up loud, and then decide that it's a good time to start blowing off their shotguns too. So it proves to me that they are not very good decision makers. So even out here in the forest, I got to be worried about somebody starting up a forest fire. Uh, it doesn't matter whether your houses are right on top of each other in a city or you're surrounded by forest. The potential for fire is there, and you have to be aware of it and protect yourself. So start thinking about those things, how you're going to do it. What kind of fire break can you create to keep yourself safe? And even around, like for me, knowing that pretty soon here I'm going to have to fire up the wood stove, I've been cleaning up brush around the area and that because I don't want something I do to start a fire. I, yeah, I could have a chimney fire. That could happen. The chimney could spit out some embers in that. And I don't want anything nearby that can catch and then potentially catch the forest on fire, you know? So think about those things. And even in my layout of my property here, all of my infrastructure, I try to space it out away from each other in case a fire does happen. If my cabin burned down, it would be a tragedy. That would suck. But at least if the rest of my structures were less standing, I can find a way to rebuild. But if everything's close together and it all just goes up, you're done. You know. So think about it. I mean, we can't trust that other people are going to be safe with their fires. Whether it's because most modern people are not accustomed to how to take care of themselves without utilities. So it could either be because they're just extremely stupid, or some people just don't know what they're doing and don't realize that what they're doing could be a danger to themselves and others. So regardless, we got to just plan that under bad circumstances, there could be fire spreading and you got to be ready to deal with that on your own. So how are you going to do that? Not to mention that whenever there is civil unrest in the cities and rioters and that, rioters really like starting things on fire for some reason. So yeah, there's potential for that. So yeah, you want to do the other things. You want to make sure you're stocked up on food and all the other stuff out there. But really think about that. Do you have a way of keeping yourself warm in your specific climate in the worst of winter if you needed to? And if everybody's trying to stay warm and have great fire danger, how do you protect yourself against that? Something else to think about.